Now, back to Lee Elci on 94.9 News Now.
All right, so here we go. 36 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock, early here on a Tuesday morning with a full show in store for you. One of our favorite guys to chat with about the world of money and taxes. He digs deep. And it's Tony D'Angelo joining us. Fortress Fiduciary Company, a division of Paragon Trust Company, joins us every once in a while. Tony, how are you, pal?
Lee, how are you? Good morning, and good morning to all.
We're doing good. So much to get into, but we only are limited by the time, the clock. So give me a little bit about Chris Murphy and his tax proposal. What are we standing?
Thank you. I received something from my very good friend Bob Swick, the economist, this week about Chris Murphy making a tax proposal. Let me just say this. Chris Murphy knows as much about taxation as I might about building the neutron bomb. And I'm going to show you exactly what is taking place here. This was a legislative news release where Chris Murphy and 6 other senators are going to repeal the provisions of the Internal Revenue Code dealing with the limitations in tax deductions. Now, they're going to do this by something known as the Congressional Review Act. Congressional Review Act is something that was enacted maybe 20-some-odd years ago. It's a way of looking at regulations and saying what regulations work and what don't. We want to get rid of those that don't work. In order for the Congressional Review Act to be operative, first of all, you've got to have the signature of the president. So it's like this whole thing is an entire fiction. And when you come back to the fact of how a tax law is made and written and how the sausage gets made, you have the code, which is enacted by Congress. You have the regulations, which are on top of that. Which the best way I can describe that is the regulations are sort of the cliff notes or the monitor notes to the actual book itself, or in my case, the classic comic book. That's kind of how I got through English. And the whole thing of we senators are going to get this regulation and we are going to abolish this law and make life free and wonderful for all makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I mean, it is one giant fraud. And I just sit there and I say to myself, I see so much of this stuff. And, of course, the whole thing about the Trump tax returns, and I've written about that, I've commented about that, I've been asked to comment about that. And I say, how does this stuff make the mainstream? And I was struggling for an answer, and what came upon me yesterday was a very good article that a gentleman named Ben Begardis had written in Connecticut News Junkie, talking about how the whole, whatever you want to call it, what used to be a Chinese wall between journalism and politics is now so muddy, people going back and forth, that these things are written by convenience, and we, the public, me as a practitioner, you as a radio host, we all suffer because in order to get information that we need to in order to live our lives and do the best we can, we can't get it. So,
when did that change in your mind? When do you think that sort of wall became that mud pile?
Somebody had asked me that yesterday, and I said the very, very, very beginning of that was probably, and I was in high school during this time, 1971, 1972. There was a gentleman by the name of John Scally who worked for ABC News. And he had left ABC News to go work in the Nixon administration. And there was an outrage. And so basically it was decided that, look, once you're over the wall, you don't get back. And he spent his life in the United Nations, and you can read about him. It's a pretty interesting life. Now you just have people going back and forth, and I think where we get nonsense like this is because people write things to, make their positions known. And the my great history teachers that I had in Ripwam High School in Stamford, Connecticut, God bless them both, Dave Mazza and Hannah Schreibfeder, would always talk to us about the sanctity of the Fourth Estate. In other words, the Fourth Estate was the journalistic people who were supposed to say, this is how it's happening. Now, you can pick your favorite journalist, but that person was not supposed to be influenced by politics. Now what we've got is literally this pap nonsense that, you read from Murphy's office, and that's not how the law works. What makes me irritated with the Murphys of the world is this is a man who's supposed to be making the law in accordance with the law as a lawmaker.
Yeah. What's the specific? I mean, people out there may not, have a grasp around what exactly it was that he was trying to do. Can you?
Okay, he was trying to work around an established item or section of the Internal Revenue Code, which is law. Again, I don't think it's the best thing that could have happened in the 2017 Act. But he was trying to work around it by literally what is a fiction and making people believe that, in his words, not mine, this CRA reverses this rule. It doesn't reverse anything. It can't. That's not how the law is made.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
But, Tony, you're digging through all kinds of different stuff, and it's almost like every day you find something new. You find something else that you can talk. They're all head scratchers, and you think to yourself, where is all the common sense gone? Where are all the people out there who can just kind of get through life by using their smarts, as we like to say? But they're just gone. It seems like everyone's gone.
Well, and I mean, I as an old guy can sit here and rail about this nonsense, but I had lunch yesterday with a very nice young man who worked for me for 8 years, who had moved on to a role in a major law firm in the state, and he was telling me about how he cannot get to the next house, the next thing in his life, because everything in his life is consumed by debt and taxes, and the fact of, feeling helpless and hopeless after all the hard work he had done. And I think really, Lee, that's my biggest concern, or my biggest reason for looking at this, is that these young people who are supposed to come and do things and to take up from us, they can't. And they can't because we've made this in such a mess, such a political morass, that we don't have laws that are workable, that actually support society. We have society supporting politics, and this is where we end up.
Interesting take. Hey, in 90 seconds or less, because we're going to run out of time.
Sure.
But they just pretty much signed off on no debt limit. What do you make of all that?
I put it this way. I think the credit card gets great until you can't pay it anymore. I am a staunch fiscal conservative, and I'm just looking for people with courage to deal with that fact. And we're getting close to an election year, and we're not seeing it, my friend.
It's incredible. Think about it. You wouldn't ask. I always try to say it this way on the air. You wouldn't ask your grandchild to pay for your new car. You wouldn't do it. And that's essentially what's going on right now. You're asking your kids to pay for stuff that, we need to tighten the belt and do a better job. But they just don't care, Tony.
No, they just don't care. And, the state of Connecticut has a $32,000 per capita debt burden on every single person. And that to me is the biggest tragedy of all. I don't think anyone in our legislature is seeing that, Lee.
Anthony D'Angelo, again, Fortress Fiduciary Company, a division of Paragon Trust. A lot of times folks may want to reach out, hear you, and think they may want to reach out, throw an email your way. Where would they go?
Email is fortresstrust@aol.com. Website, paragontrust.com. Phone number, 203-777-7334.
All right, Tony. Thank you, buddy. Always a pleasure.
Okay, pal.
All right, pal. All right, there he is, Tony D'Angelo. Good stuff. Always good stuff with him. So we'll take a break. We'll come back. And Bob Lazari will join us next. We'll change gears, talk about the world of sports. Stick around. You're listening to 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk.